Okay, 9 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order. The first thing we have is review of and discuss the report to council for Elgin County Land Division activities for 2021. Is there any comments on that? Okay, the meeting minutes. Yeah, sorry, approval of the meeting minutes for October 27th. Questions on the minutes?
I'll move they be approved.
Moved by Jack Van Castren, seconded by Rosemary. Any further, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now we have a review and discuss report to council, which will go on December. It's council meeting in December.
That's correct, yes, it would be December 9th. Through you, Mr. Chair, actually, it depends on the chair, if you'd like to attend in person, I think, then I need to know so we can ensure county council's aware and they can schedule you as a delegation.
Okay.
So if that's the case, I can discuss that with clerks.
Okay, December the 9th, discuss it with, and let me know, Nancy, if there's a problem. That's-
Okay, you'd like to attend though, if you?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Geez, we didn't have a choice. Had to be there to read it.
Great.
There's no problem.
Is there any comments from anyone?
Well done.
Any comments on the report that's going to county council?
Good report.
Good, thank you. Thank you, Nancy, very much. Our next item. Finish one and then inquiries from. First of all, I'd like to ask, hey, Mr. Andrews,
Sorry, I'm late, sir.
I'd like to ask Brian, he has a few words he'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the committee, wish to advise the committee that Nancy has submitted her resignation. Nancy will be moving on to new endeavors. So I just want to assure the committee that an interim plan is being developed as we speak right now, and further information will come forth. Certainly on behalf of the county, I wish Nancy all the best in her future planning endeavors, and I'm sure she won't be a stranger to this general area. So just wanted to advise the committee of that, and stay tuned with respect to next steps. Future meetings will continue as scheduled, so we don't anticipate that there'll be any significant interruptions with respect to processes in that regards.
Congratulations on your future endeavors.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Brian. This is disappointing, but you always wish people for
Absolutely.
advancing themselves, and Nancy, you will be missed. And it's been a good year and an experienced year for taking over, and you took over when two people had left, and you will certainly be missed. You're well received in the communities, I know.
Thank you very much for that. I've really enjoyed my time here. This was a difficult decision to make, but I think it's a good one ultimately, and I've really appreciated all your support. Sorry. And hope our paths cross again.
Exactly.
I'm concerned though, I've got a sense there's no hope for donuts.
Committee meetings since you're leaving. I've been working on that for a year. And on top of that, I'm also worried about contagion. Ashleen's gone, now you're gone. Is somebody else on the LDC deciding to leave the next time we show up?
People, aren't we, John?
Yeah. Anyway.
The donuts can certainly be arranged, I think.
Okay,
I think,
well done.
yes, you've done an excellent job, as I said.
Appreciate it.
You'll certainly be missed, but everybody has advancement and ways to do stuff. I think we're not, I hate to say it, we're not the only ones. I have friends in other municipalities and staff are changing left.
We just look at the Municipal World Job Board every month.
There's a lot.
Yes, yes,
Competitive.
yes, and it's difficult to find people for certain areas. They don't want to go. I know that some of my friends in the north are really having a difficult time. So then our next item is E 6321. It's we dealt with that at the last meeting.
Mr. Chair, yes. No,
No, October.
It would have been September or October, I can't recall. This is an application for an amended decision based on new information that was received on Radish property in relation to that, the location of that. I think it's a gas easement. So they've need to amend their decision.
Anything to do with after the surveyor came and,
Yeah, which is usually what happens.
which is what
so.
happened, yes, the surveyor came and, no, you're shaking your head?
The gas line.
Gas line, yes,
Gas line, yeah.
but I know the surveyor and he said there was some. Anyway, any discussion on this by the members? Everybody can,
We need a motion to approve.
we need a motion to approve. Moved by Dennis, seconded by John. Alvin. All in favor? It's carried. Is there any inquiries from the land division members? Anything that they've seen on the agendas or anything?
My signs are up.
Signs, we had a problem with signs this time around.
Oh, that was my next item.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you like to discuss the signs then?
Okay,
I don't know, Dennis, if you'd like to go ahead and, you
somebody got,
had a lot of problems with your signs, did you not, in Central Elgin?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were, yeah. But since we are deferring the Fort Stanley ones, he had 2 out of the 4 proper. But my main question was on the one on where the 2 tiny lots and were being made. And he only had 2 signs up, one on each end for 2 lots. And my question was technically under the act, should there have been 4 signs delineating both lots?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the act doesn't specify how many signs or anything, our committee, I guess, procedures have it being 2 signs per lot. So yes, I agree, there should have been 4 signs in total to delineate those 2 properties.
So I'm not gonna worry about the signs now because I don't wanna presuppose, but since the township has asked us for deferral for all of those, we won't get too worried about it. And the only other interesting one was the one on Centennial. The people put the signs at the very back of the lot. And, the only way I could see it was putting a zoom on my camera and shooting down their laneway, and I could see a yellow sign way at the back of the property.
Oh, my God.
So,
I noticed that.
Had these, through you, Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, Jack.
had these not been proposed to be deferred, would these have been deferred based on that? I think the answer would be yes.
it could very well have been for not proper notice, not proper location, not properly, one had fallen down and it's not been put up, and when the wind blew it backwards, all you could see was a yellow sign with no writing on it. So, number of issues there that, once I read the staff report, I let Nancy know about all this stuff. I didn't pursue it. I'm not sure how much Nancy talked to the developer.
Through Mr. Chair, Don contacted the developer several times to try to rectify the location and part of it was the applicant indicated that it was very windy, so he'd lost 1 or 2 or what have you, so. But regardless, certainly, our procedures say that there needs to be 2 signs per lot, visible. And in this particular case, several of them were missing that mark, so that would be something that the committee would have decided on.
Through you, Mr. Chair, for,
Jack?
so those signs are sent to the applicant? And I'm assuming there's clear instruction on how they're to be posted, right?
Yes.
Through you,
So
Mr.
there's
Chair.
no excuse for, well, I didn't know. Okay.
Any further questions on signs?
Sign.
Now, you said like one of them got blown over or something. So say they put up a sign and something happens to it. Should they contact us to get a new sign to replace that?
Absolutely, through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely, yes, that would be the way to do it. If you lose your sign, then we have extras, we can certainly send you a new one or arrange to have it picked up, so.
And a good example of that was when, I think you all remember when we did 2 service centers at Dutton. We finally had to have them put them on steel posts, and because every time a big truck went in, the wind from the truck would blow it over and snap the post off. And that was happening, so we had them put, and I think sometimes you have to go and say to them, and I know we're not supposed to talk to them, but I think if we have to, like I had one just recently, they put the sign in the middle of the yard, 2 signs on one post facing, when you drove down the road, you could see it. And I had to explain to them, but that one was deferred for our committee and it's now proper, but it won't be dealt with till January.
Through you, Mr. Chair, our procedures are generally that it should be 2 signs, visible location to show the extent of the property.
Yes.
It's a little bit gray in terms of when it's on a corner, for instance, maybe it's better to have it on one frontage versus another or both, just to let people know, because really it's about notifying people that there is an application on this property. And even if it doesn't, some of the severances are to the rear, for instance, or some of the severances, we may not exactly show what the lot may look like. But the point is that you're notifying the neighbors that they should be calling to find out more information if they didn't receive a notice, or if they're interested, or providing their comments.
Any other inquiries from members on signs? Any inquiries on any other matters?
I have a question. My question would be if this is being deferred, should the signs still be remaining up until further notices are concluded regarding the final results of the decision?
Who's this? Who's speaking?
It's Frank. Sorry, I'm calling online. My name is Frank. Frank,
He's one of the members of the public.
one of the members of the public.
Okay, this is one of the ones in Port Stanley.
Correct.
We will be dealing with that at 10 o'clock when we deal with them.
But it's a general question.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead. We'll list.
The question was about your signage questions about what you were talking about. The question was, if this decision is being deferred, do the signs come down or do they stay up?
I can answer that through you,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
Nancy.
The signs should remain in place when it's a deferred application until such time as it's dealt with or the file is closed. So
They must stay.
they will stay in place and proceeds in some manner.
And if by chance, one of the situations is, like you said, the wind blew it down, how often are they getting, or how often are they being requested to make sure that these signs are clearly visible and able to be marked so that the community can see this application request?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the notice of application likely be circulated again for these applications, just to ensure the public is aware of it. So during that time period, it would be imperative then, because then it would be an active application, I guess you could say, with the community. You could provide your comments at that time. And that's when the signs would be needed to be in place, to ensure that they're in place.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Any other inquiries from land division members?
I've got a question on the issue scoping report that's been referenced. I don't think I've come across that before from the township. What's the legal backing for that? Is it in their OP or zoning bylaw that they can request that?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, it is their first step, I guess you could say, for an environmental impact assessment. It's an issue scoping report, which basically looks at the features and identifies whether there may be an impact, and if further study is required. It's kind of their first step when it comes to environmental impact studies.
Okay, so their backing is the OP then? Okay.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Good question. I haven't heard about it.
Is there any other inquiries or items of discussion for the members? Our first appointment is for 9:30.
That's right, so we'll have
We've got,
13 minutes.
yes,
So we can let the people know that we'll be silent. We'll just mute ourselves for
yes.
13 minutes until the first item starts.
Okay, so we're dealing with application number E81-21. Take notice, an application is made by Trigen Farms Incorporated, Darren Del Bellebec, 50155 Vienna Line, Aylmer, Ontario, for consent pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act as amended to sever lands municipally known as 50241 and 50155 Vienna Line, Township of Malahide. The applicant proposed to sever a parcel with a frontage of 177.74 meters, 583.13 feet, by a depth of 1,002.63 meters, 305.60 feet, and an area of 20.87 hectares, 51.57 acres, and retain a parcel with a frontage of 333.09 meters, 1,092.81 feet, and an area of 23.54 hectares, 58.16 acres, both proposed to remain in agricultural use. Do any of applicants or agents and interested parties who wish to speak to this application please introduce themselves?
Yes, Dave Rowe, the agent for the applicant, is here.
Okay, and we have,
Yeah, good morning. I'm Darren DeLebeck, so I'm president of Trigen Farms. So I just figured I'd come out and be involved in the process and be present. So
I'll ask Nancy for her comments, please.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Township of Malahide provided the following comments. They have no objection to the land severance, provided the following conditions that will be noted, be incorporated into the consent decision. County engineering indicated the subject site is not on a county road. Catfish Creek Conservation Authority had no comments. No comments were provided. The County of Elgin Planning Department reviewed this application and it appears to meet the PPS, the provincial policy statement and the county official plan, as well as meeting the local official plan for the Township of Malahide, which has a special consideration for smaller agricultural parcels, as is noted in their comments as well as our comments, a summary of our comments. So the recommendation is for support of this proposed consent, subject to the following county conditions: municipal addressing to be provided to Elgin County from the local municipality prior to final approval to the satisfaction of Elgin County Planning. A digital copy of the draft and final deposited reference plan be provided to the County of Elgin. Solicitor undertaking to provide a copy of registered deed for the severed parcel once completed. As well, the following conditions from the Township of Malahide: that the applicant be required to retain the services of a professional designer and have an engineered lock grading development plan and ditch grading plan prepared in accordance with good engineering practices that are suitable to the township prior to the condition being deemed fulfilled. That all outstanding work orders or bylaw enforcement issues be resolved to the satisfaction of the chief building official prior to the condition being fulfilled. That the necessary deeds, transfers, and charges for certificates and or instruments necessary for registration be submitted in triplicate. That all applicable property taxes, municipal fees, and charges be paid to the municipality. That an electronic version of the reference plan be submitted. The applicant is responsible to apply and pay all fees to the township with respect to civic addressing numbers and signage for the severed and retained portions of the property. That the applicant is responsible for the demolition or repair of various dilapidated buildings and structures, all of which is to the satisfaction and at no cost to the Township of Malahide.
Thank you, Nancy. Any comments from Dave, from you?
No, the conditions are fine with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any from the members of the Land Division Committee?
Just a couple, Mr. Chairman. I'm just curious on the map on page 46. On the northern boundary line, did somebody cough when they were drawing that line, or is that the actual line?
Find that one, Don?
46,
Through
46.
you, Mr. Chair, that's actually from the township of Malahide, so I'm not sure why it looks
That's the
like that.
squiggly line on the north.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered why it was like that too.
Yeah.
That's a pretty deep ravine there. So I assumed it was due to big storm drains that were built into the road, because they redid that road, I think, in like 2007 or 2008. And they did a good job with it, and they put in storm drains there and stuff like that on the edge of the road. So as the water, heavy rains or whatever comes down, and then it gets caught rather than creating washout effects. So I really have no idea why it's so squiggly, but
Just curious. And my last question is, condition number 7, and I know they're both farms, but have we used that type of wording before where we've just left it up to the landowner and the township to deal with any dilapidated buildings and not specified? Because many times this committee has specified the buildings to remain and the buildings to be torn down. And here we're leaving it up to the landowner and the township to sort that out. And I'm comfortable with that because it's a farm, but I don't believe I've seen such a wide open condition in the past. Have we used that before?
Mr. Chair, I've never seen it worded like this. I have seen, like you said, specific to certain buildings, but there may be multiple on both properties perhaps, so they're hoping that they can deal with it. And maybe there needs to be an assessment done too. The Township of Malahide may need to go to the properties themselves to determine which actual buildings are in good order and what have you, so maybe they just.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just, we're delegating full responsibility away from this committee to this building.
Any other comments? John?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, to Nancy and perhaps to the applicant. I found it interesting about the 40 acre and 20 acre. Can you comment more about that? It just seemed puzzling to me. And is the 20 acre a thing of the future? Is this something we're going to see more of?
Mr. Chair, the Township of Malahide has, and is, as far as I know, one of the few municipalities in the county of Elgin that has a specific policy that allows for severances that are not the typical 40-hectare farm parcels. So in general, the county official plan has a policy that requires any farm severances shall meet a minimum of 40 hectares or it can meet, if the municipality has a different policy, it can meet that essentially. And the township, I'm not sure when it was added, but they do have this special policy that essentially allows for smaller farm parcels. Now, having said that, the township is going through a official plan review right now. And certainly from my planning opinion and based on the municipalities I've worked for and other municipalities I'm aware of, the 40 hectares is considered to be a minimum from even places like the Elgin Farmers Association, the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, I believe, also supports that 40 hectare minimum.
Okay.
So whether that is the potential to be changed in the future, I'm not sure, because at this point, I mean, I'm not sure what the township is actually proposing from a policy perspective. But I think there'll be probably further discussion on continuing to have that type of a policy. I'm aware that the township is also a little bit different from a lot of the municipalities simply because of the residents themselves, the composition of which they're tend to be Mennonite or Amish, which sometimes they have smaller farm parcels potentially. But again, overall, the provincial policy statement doesn't make a determination as to what that minimum should be. I do know though that the OFA and EFA both consider 40 hectares to be the minimum. But this policy does exist, so we have to recognize that.
Okay, thank you.
Jack?
Just a point of clarification, John, you'd mentioned 20 acre and 40 acre, but
Oh, sorry, hectare.
yeah.
Yes.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Nancy, in your explanation, because from my history in Malahide, that is exactly why that was brought in. The 100 acre or 40 hectares provincially is a standard, but Malahide's position is that a viable farm operation can be as low as 50 acres because of the makeup of the constituents in Malahide communities. Yeah.
I only have 50 acres.
Any other questions? John?
Yes, again through you, Mr. Chair. There was a note that there was a 2016 application. Was that not processed at all? And the applicant seems to be asserting that the 2021 application is the first application. Is the 2016 one?
No, actually, we did a rezoning application, but we didn't carry forward with the severance.
So it was never officially,
It was never submitted.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of the members?
I move acceptance.
Moved by Rosemary, seconded by John Andrews. All in favor? Dennis, are you in favor?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. It's carried. The decision rendered today for this application will be circulated within 15 days after the notice. There is a 20-day appeal period from the giving of the notice of decision in which any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed. If no appeal is received within 20 days of the giving of the notice, provisional consent becomes final. The applicant has 1 year to meet the conditions imposed and submit the necessary documents for certification, or the consent will lapse and a new application will be required. Please leave the identification signs in place until the appeal period ends, after which they can be removed. If you would like to be notified of today's decision, please request a copy by contacting Nancy Pasto at npasto@elgin.ca. A copy of the comment package is also available upon request and includes all correspondence received. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're just about on time for.
When do we move to the 2-year time frame for applicants to meet all the guidelines?
After you, Mr. Chair, that legislation hasn't been passed
It hasn't
yet,
been
so
passed.
I'm not actually sure. I don't recall if it's received third reading or not and royal assent. I'm not sure, I'd have to check on that, but I'm fairly certain it hasn't been anywhere in a few months, so at this point, I think it's still just an introductory legislation.
Once it's passed, do we automatically move to the 2 years?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think any decision after that, new legislation would then include the 2 years, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the next application is E86-21. Application E86-21. Take notice that an application has been made by Orford Sand and Gravel Limited, 6858 14th Line, Merlin, Ontario, for consent pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act 1990, as amended, to sever lands municipally known as Monroe Street and Graham Road, lots 16 and 18, concession 8 RP, Aldeboro, Municipality of West Elgin. The applicants propose to sever a parcel with a frontage of 24.46 meters, 80.25 feet, by a depth of 103.07 meters, 338.16 feet, and an area of 0.316 hectares, 0.78 acres for future commercial use. The applicants are retaining a parcel with an area of 3.18 hectares, 7.9 acres proposed to be kept vacant. Applicants or agents and interested parties who wish to speak to this application, please introduce themselves to the committee.
My name is Lee Greenwood. I'm one of the applicants. Matt Campbell is also here. We can answer any questions related to the file.
Okay, thank you. We will deal with this after. Nancy, your comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 1 second here. West Elgin's comments were long, so I just have to skip through those.
Yes.
Okay. Municipality of West Elgin, West Elgin Council recommended approval to the Land Division Committee for the severance application, subject to the conditions that will be noted following this. County engineer, subject to the provided conditions related to road widening, direct connection to a legal outlet, entrance permits, and lot grading. Lower Thames Valley, please be advised that the application has been reviewed and the Conservation Authority has no objections to this proposal. However, a permit may be required in the future as these lands are adjacent to a provincially significant wetland. Affects the retained land zone. Overall, the application for consent is consistent with both the 2020 provincial policy statement and complies with the County of Elgin official plan regarding lot creation in settlement areas. As such, planning staff recommends the following conditions. A digital copy of the draft and final deposited reference plan, solicitor undertaking to provide a copy of the registered deed, municipal addressing to be provided to Elgin County from the local municipality, that the owner dedicate lands along the frontage of the severed lot parcel up to 18 meters from center line of construction of Graham Road, County Road 76 to the County of Elgin for the purposes of road widening, if the right-of-way is not already to that width, to the satisfaction of the county engineer, all costs to be borne by the owner. Direct connection to a legal outlet for the severed lot is required. If an existing connection is unavailable, to the satisfaction of the county engineer, all costs to be borne by the owner. Discharge of water to the county road allowance is prohibited. That if necessary, an entrance permit be obtained from Elgin County for the entrance to the severed parcel. All costs associated with this shall be borne by the owner. Any lot grading plan is required for the severed lot. Additionally, it is recommended that the following conditions for the municipality of West Elgin be included as conditions for consent. That the applicant meet all requirements, financial and otherwise, of the municipality. That the applicant provides a description of the lands to be severed, which can be registered in the land registry office. That the applicant's solicitor provides an undertaking to the municipality to provide a copy of the registered deed for the severed parcel once the transaction has occurred. That the applicant shall make payment of cash in lieu of applicable parkland dedication pursuant to section 51.1 of the Planning Act. That prior to the final approval by the county is advised in writing by the municipality how the above noted conditions have been satisfied. That all conditions noted above shall be fulfilled within 1 year of the notice of decision so that the County of Elgin is authorized to issue the certificate of consent. Just want to double check that was the last of them.
Yes.
Yes, that was the last of them. So those were the conditions. Thank you. Oh, and one additional thing, there was a comment provided as part of this. I was a resident, Diane Dowling, who wanted to be made aware of the application and the link, as well as the notice of decision from the Land Division Committee. And that was it. Thank you.
Any committee members have any discussion, comments? Dennis?
Did that landowner tell you what her concerns might be?
Mr. Chair.
All right. My second point is regarding the Conservation Authority's comments. I guess to summarize, they're saying that the retained lands are subject to the regulatory process, but not the severed lands. But when you read both your comments and the Lower Thames comments, it's unclear that the severed lands do not require any permits from the Conservation Authority. So can we get that clarified either by you or the Conservation Authority that the severed lands are not subject to any regulations of the Conservation Authority? If you're reading their letter, it's almost incomprehensible.
Through you, Mr. Chair, let me just read, after reviewing our files and mapping, staff determined that the property in question is subject to the authority's interference with wetlands portion of the regulations. The issue of concern in this area is the adjacent lands of the West Lorne Woodlot provincially significant wetland, which affects the retained lands only.
Correct. You read the next paragraph
An
though.
application from this office is required prior to any works construction taking place within the regulated area, so obviously the regulated area, I believe, would be, only on the retained lands. So that would only affect that. The lands are not subject to flooding. However, the floodproofing of structures for the purposes of prevention of flood damage from local drainage waters is always recommended. Setbacks from the provincially significant wetland and its associated adjacent lands will be required to any proposed structure. This includes the installation of field tile drainage systems.
So if you're guaranteeing me that the severed lands are not subject to any regulatory process, then I will accept that. I do not read that letter that way. And I do not trust a Conservation Authority letter that is obtuse like that.
Mr. Chair, I read it that it's only for the retained lands. Regardless, it would be incumbent obviously on the applicant to ensure that the processes for the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority are met, so.
But you see, that's the issue that I have. Because as soon as you make an inquiry to the Conservation Authority, there's a fee involved. And this letter should have absolved the landowner from any regulatory process. And therefore, they should not have to make a further inquiry to the Conservation Authority and therefore not incur another fee.
Through you, Nancy, like I said, the conservation and the municipality are gonna be the ones dealing with that. It won't be us,
Well, I agree.
okay?
Yeah.
And where that area is, I think Doug will know. The woods are back farther, right, Doug?
Yeah, the woodland's nowhere near.
Well,
Like,
I'm agreeing 100%.
This is what, old railway land, Doug?
I'm agreeing 100% with all of that. So it should not be a difficult issue to get something from somebody saying to the applicant that you are not subject to any Conservation Authority regulations on this severed parcel.
On the severed parcel.
On the seventh.
And that's all I'm looking for. I'm not dealing with the retained. That's subject to regulatory process. But if we're saying, leave it up to the Conservation Authority, now, this letter should have clarified that it is not subject to a regulatory process on the severed land. And if it's not subject to regulatory process, there is no further inquiry required to the Conservation Authority. And you don't have to shell out a couple $100 to the Conservation Authority to tell them what they should have said in the first place.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the only way to do this would be to clarify this somehow and then bring it back to committee. I wouldn't be able to do that now, obviously.
No, I don't want it brought back to committee.
Yeah.
But the wording of the letter, even the opening line, we have no objection to this. The average layperson wouldn't understand that, in fact, the Conservation Authority could stop any construction and all construction on the severed property. So for them to say we have no objections it's just not truthful. So I just don't like wishy-washy regulatory bodies like that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Matt Campbell, who's on the call. Matt, have you had any discussions with the Conservation Authority at all on this property, or are you aware of any permits required for any development on this property?
Through the chair to Nancy, no, we haven't had any discussion directly with the Conservation Authority. I understand the concern about this letter, and I think we've all been involved in situations where the direction from the Conservation Authority hasn't been necessarily black and white. If I can speak to this, though, I don't necessarily have any concerns. The letter states a very matter of fact that this affects the retained lands only, and not the lands to be severed. The Conservation Authority has regulated areas that are delineated, which are not subject to change through this application. So we have to rely on their regulations, regardless of what this letter says. And so I don't have any significant concerns in regards to the Conservation Authority comments.
Thank you for your comments. John Andrews?
I move.
Moved by John. Second by Jack Van Castern. Any further comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
Conservation.
The decision rendered today for this application will be circulated within 15 days after the notice. There is a 20-day appeal period from the giving of the notice of decision in which any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed. If no appeal is received within 20 days of the giving of the notice, the provisional consent becomes final. The applicant has 1 year to meet the conditions imposed and submit the necessary documents for certification, or the consent will lapse and a new application will be required. Please leave the identification signs in place until the appeal period ends, after which they can be removed. If you would like to be notified of today's decision, please request a copy by contacting Nancy Pasto at npasto@elgin.ca. A copy of the comment package is also available upon request and includes all correspondence received. Thank you. So it's now
See my big butter.
time to deal with the next one.
Yep.
What they had to do was say, you need, or you do.
And the other
On the
is 9:50, so we
Sutherlands.
can start.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm just,
And you read that and
okay.
maybe,
Take notice
maybe don't, but you got it.
that an application was made by Janet Ray Williamson, 8684 Centennial Road, St. Thomas, Ontario, for consent pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act as amended to sever lands municipally known as 8684 Centennial Road, Municipality of Central Elgin, and this is application E8821. The applicants propose to sever a parcel with a width of 67.26 meters, 220.67 feet, a depth of 240.23 meters, 788.16 feet, and an area of 1.6155 hectares, 3.99 acres, to be conveyed to the adjacent property to the south, 8662 Centennial Road. The applicants are retaining a parcel with an area of 0.1963 hectares, 0.49 acres, containing a dwelling proposed to remain in residential use. Applicants or agents and interested parties who wish to speak to this application, please introduce themselves to the committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. It's Amy Dale. I'm the lawyer for the applicant, and Janet Williamson is with us as well today.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. We'll now have Nancy discuss the comments on this application.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the Municipality of Central Elgin did provide comments. They are attached in the supplemental information that was received on Tuesday by the committee.
Yes.
Let me just pull those up. Go through their comments. The Municipality of Central Elgin generally supports this application, subject to conditions that will be noted. The county engineering, subject to the provided conditions related to road widening and entrance permits, and the Conservation Authority provided no comments. This application for consent is consistent with both the 2020 provincial policy statement and complies with the County of Elgin official plan regarding lot creation and settlement areas. As such, planning staff recommend the following: a digital copy of the drafted final deposited reference plan, solicitor undertaking, municipal addressing to be provided to Elgin County, that the owner dedicate lands along the frontage of the retained lot parcel up to 15 meters from the center line of construction of Centennial Road, County Road 28 to the County of Elgin for the purposes of road widening, if the right-of-way is not already to that width, to the satisfaction of the county engineer, all costs to be borne by the owner, and that if necessary, an entrance permit be obtained from Elgin County for the entrance to the severed parcel. All costs associated with this shall be borne by the owner. I have also just noticed that I did not include the typical merging of the properties condition, so I asked that committee also consider an additional condition related to the merging of the properties as a result of this application. So we will also ask for that. And referring to the Municipality of Central Elgin, their conditions are as noted. The applicant demonstrate that the retained lot conforms with the 1,858 meters squared minimum lot area requirement of the R1 zone. The severed land be merged in title with the abutting lot 8662 Centennial Road, which will be the same sort of condition that I would be seeking. Three, that the subsection 3 or 5 of section 50 of the Planning Act as amended shall apply to any subsequent conveyance or transaction involving the subject lands. Also, another condition that the county would be adding. The solicitor for the applicant is to provide an undertaking whereby they inform the committee in writing that the lands are being conveyed to an abutting property owner, and thus a merger of title will take place, which merger shall include all interests held inclusive or mortgagee's interest, and the municipality of Central Elgin be provided with a copy of the reference plan. And those were all the comments received, I believe.
Do you have any comments from any of the members of the committee?
I'll move the recommendation with the additional condition that the properties be merged in title. Is that the proper thing?
Moved by Dennis, seconded by Rosemary. No further comments from any members? All in favor? It's carried.
Thank you.
The decision.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry. The decision rendered today for this application will be circulated within 15 days after the notice. There's a 20-day appeal period from the giving of the notice of decision in which any person or public body may appeal the decision or any condition imposed. If no appeal is received within 20 days of the giving of the notice, the provisional consent becomes final. The applicant has 1 year to meet the conditions imposed and submit the necessary documents for certification, or the consent will lapse and a new application will be required. Please leave the identification signs in place until the appeal period ends, after which they can be removed. If you would like to be notified of today's decision, please request a copy by contacting Nancy Pasto at npasto@elgin.ca. A copy of comment package is also available upon request and includes all correspondence received. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It is 10:01. We can start the next items.
I'm here for this one.
Okay, 1 second.
Yes, okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may, Nancy, just clarification. If you already had in your conditions, county conditions, that it's recommended that the conditions of the municipality of Central Elgin be included,
Yes.
you have to put in your conditions that, I don't think so. It's already there.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, probably not necessarily. However, especially considering we're the final people that look at that stamp deed.
Right.
It's really important to have that in the legal description, for instance, and it's a special stamp that we actually use for specific to properties that merge on title. Because then it, as was indicated in the Central Elgin comments, Section 50 of the Planning Act applies, so that way there can be no, you know how there's that whole issue with once a severance, always a severance, so that has to apply here, so, it's just, it's the right, it should be from the county, actually, that kind of condition, because we should be ensuring that that is reflected on the deed.
Okay, thank you.
But it doesn't hurt having it in Central Elgin.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay, we'll now deal with application E82-21. Take notice, an application was made by 1551945 Ontario Limited, David Russell, 382 Queens Ave, London, for consent pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act 1990, as amended to sever lands municipally known as 485 George Street, Municipality of Central Elgin. The applicants propose to sever a parcel with a frontage of 12.2 meters, 40.02 feet, by a depth of 47.2 meters, 154.85 feet, and an area of 0.05 hectares or 0.13 acres for future residential use. The applicants are retaining a parcel with an area of 0.36 hectares, 0.89 acres to remain in residential use. Applicants or agents and interested parties who wish to speak to this application, please introduce themselves to the committee.
I'm David Russell, the owner.
Yes,
I'm Ted Hall, authorized agent.
yes, thank you. Can you introduce yourself, please? Just introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Kim McGregor Fowd.
Okay, thank you.
Susan Redmond.
Thank you. I'll now ask Nancy for her comments, please.
Mr. Chair. So this will be, perhaps we should be also
You want to do the two of them?
E83 as well, because essentially they're going to be done at the same time. So you, Mr. Chair, if you wouldn't mind reading the notice for E83 as well.
Okay. Okay, application E83-21. Take notice, an application has been made by 1551945 Ontario Limited, David Russell, 382 Queens Ave, London, for consent pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act as amended to sever lands municipally known as 485 George Street, Municipality of Central Elgin. The applicants propose to sever a parcel with a frontage of 12.2 meters, 40.02 feet, by a depth of 48.7 meters, 159.78 feet, and an area of 0.06 hectares, 0.14 acres for future residential use. The applicants are retaining a parcel with an area of 0.36 hectares, 0.89 acres to remain in residential use. So we'll deal with these two at once. The committee understand that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Nancy, go ahead.
Okay, we'll start with the comments from the Municipality of Central Elgin first. Recommendation, council pass a resolution requesting that the consent application E82 and 83 be deferred pending the following for application E8221, a geotechnical analysis, issue scoping report, and environmental impact study. For the E83-21, Municipality of Central Elgin passes a resolution to committee requesting that consent application E83-21 also be deferred pending the following: geotechnical analysis, issue scoping report, and environmental impact study, a zoning matrix for the retained lot, site plan that demonstrates to the satisfaction of the Director of Asset Management and Development that the Municipality of Central Elgin, that the retained lot can accommodate off-street parking in accordance with the Village of Port Stanley zoning bylaw 1507 as amended, and supporting information from a qualified professional that demonstrates to the satisfaction of the Chief Building Official, Municipality of Central Elgin, that existing development on the retained lot conforms with the Ontario Building Code relative to the proposed common lot line, and comments from the appropriate utility authority relative to the existing utility pole in front of parcel B. Yes, so those have been recommended by the municipality. Comments from the County of Elgin. The county engineering indicated this application is not on a county road. Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, in consideration of the applicable natural hazard policies, the applicant should be required to undertake a geotechnical evaluation of the abutting valley land slopes in order to define the limit of erosion hazards associated with the abutting valley land slope. This information is required in order to make an informed decision on the proposed new building lots and ensure that all development is directed away from such hazards. KCCA is aware that a geotechnical assessment has been initiated by the applicant. However, KCCA has yet to have an opportunity to review the assessment for compliance with associated natural hazard policies. Therefore, KCCA staff would respectfully request that any decision related to applications for consent E82 and 83-21 be deferred until KCCA has had an opportunity to review and comment on the pending geotechnical evaluation. The county's comments, as applications E82 and 83 do not meet the criteria of the Elgin County Official Plan or the provincial policy statement, i.e. cannot demonstrate no negative impacts on significant environmental features, and as requested by the Municipality of Central Elgin, planning staff recommend deferral of both applications. There have also been comments provided from several members of the public. Ross Tucker, 480 George Street. Most lots are a minimum of 60 feet. There's not a historical, this is not the historical fabric of the area. You would not be able to build on the natural heritage portion was a question. Would you be losing the carport? If it demolishes the carport, where will the applicant park? Is there going to be a traffic study, as there is a blind spot there, and there needs to be tree preservation. Second member of the public, Kevin Miller. I have provided some pictures regarding the proposed severance of the lot on George Street, Port Stanley. I have some concerns with the safety aspect of this proposed land severance. Currently, there are 5 driveways within 250 feet of the crest of the hill heading west on George Street. This severance could potentially add 2 more driveways within this footage. Cars heading west on George are blind off these driveways until they crest the hill. The first 2 photos are looking west up George Street. The third photo shows the first driveway that is hidden by the stone wall on the north side of the roadway. The second driveway in the fourth picture is where the porta potty is, currently under renovation. This will be a 4-plex rental property. There is approximately 5 feet between the first and second driveway. The fifth driveway heading west in the fourth picture is where the garbage truck is currently in the photo, approximately 250 feet. The sixth picture is taken at the crest of the hill. The proposed severance is located between the black car and the second hydro pole in the photo on the right side of the road. The last photo looking east shows the 3 driveways currently in place. The proposed severance could potentially add 2 more driveways between the hydro poles shown in the photo. Cars proceeding west, cresting the hill, are blind to 3 driveways currently. The severance, possibly adding 2 more driveways within 250 feet, could increase the possibility of an accident. I believe more investigation should be forthcoming before providing a severance on this property. Please note I have only indicated issues on the north side of George. On the south side of George Street, there is Mitchell Street and 3 more driveways within the 250 feet of cresting of the hill. And a series of photos have also been provided. And those were all the written comments received.
Thank you. Any comments from the committee members? Any comments from the agents?
Mr. Chair, we have the submissions that have been made and have been reviewing them and are prepared to respond to them at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Thank you. Any comments from the people at the back?
Yes, I wondered, Nancy, if, or committee, you have the, I did send a letter by email, if that's good of yours, Kim McGregor Froud, and there were 3 other residents as well.
Yes, I think so.
I think so. Let me
I just believe that was added to the additional.
I read that somewhere.
It's in the additional package?
I believe so.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
That's right. Through you, Mr. Chair, those comments are in the package as well.
Yes.
But since the member of the public is here, she perhaps would like to go through these comments as well.
Yes, go ahead.
I assume that you have the letter that we wrote. I am certainly in agreement with the safety concerns, the heritage concern, and the environmental impact. David, have you read that letter as well? Do you have that?
Yes, I saw it. Yes, thanks.
Okay, so those 3 are very, very key. I have a question for you, Mr. Russell. On your own property, where you live, your home, do you have enough land to sever that, your own property?
Never really.
I don't know that I
contemplated
probably
that.
do, but
I just wondered, yeah, because this is at the heart of maybe where we're coming from. Not only meeting the Ontario building bylaw and placing an application before this committee, but also considering why you are making this application. And there are properties, yes, you can sever and maybe it will comply and you will comply. What is the impact on a neighborhood that has been there for years and years? So I would urge you to consider that. When is enough enough? You understand? And I know that real estate is booming and I get that. But it is really hard to watch places jammed in, especially in that community up on George Street, where my parents have had a cottage since 1924. And I just wonder, as a developer, as a renter, are you looking at that? And I know that this land use committee, you entertain these questions, But I think the question, sir, has to come to you and the people who are developing, that you are making a positive mark in our community of Port Stanley that I've called home for decades. And I urge you, sir, to do that.
Yeah, that's certainly the objective.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any further comments? Wait, she has one.
Thank you. I just bought the property to the east of, or sorry, to the west of the two parcels of land that are being talked about, being severed here. So I have concerns that way. I have concerns as to the integrity of the actual, land where it was filled in because it was originally part of the ravine years and years ago. I have lived on the other side of the property at 479 and 483 George Street. My family has had that for 38 years.
Okay, thank you.
I have the same concerns strongly of safety, of adding more people, more traffic, more cars, even from Kokomo, the amount of traffic and foot traffic that come up that sidewalk that ends at the apartment. And people don't know what side of the road to walk on. And coming up that hill, driving up that hill, even though it's been reduced to 30 kilometers an hour, people still come up much higher than that, have no idea what to expect when they get to the top. I've walked my dog up there and have had to jump to the side of the road when there's 3 more possible driveways gonna be there, 2 more with the one that will somehow have to be fit in with the demolition of the carport. It's just such a safety issue. And with Mitchell Street being right across from it, those people trying to come out onto George, people backing out of their driveways, it's dangerous. We also do not have any other means, any other way of getting from our area out of the village. To add more confined housing in there. If there were ever to be any type of tragedy, and we have no way to get out. So safety is huge.
Thank you.
Could you restate that? I didn't understand the first part of that. A submission.
In what?
That last comment of yours.
My concern is the safety of the residents that already live there, the people that are walking up the street from Kokomo's, having 3 driveways in such a confined area where there is only one now, and then mine would be the next. It's just half the time when you come up George Street, the angle of the sun in the evening, you cannot see. So my concern is adding more potential hazard there.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Council or committee, do you have a decision? Any more comments? Dennis?
I've got a question about the issue scoping report. And in the hierarchy of the next steps, even before a severance is granted, so that has to be prepared. So Township Council is asking for that to be prepared. And in that report.
That is in process.
Pardon?
I can advise the committee that that is in process.
That's not my point. So the issue studies report will be done. And then is council asking for 4 separate or 3 separate reports, or will all of these in Port Stanley be done under one issues report? Do we know?
They are done separately, Mr. Chair.
Pardon?
Those reports would come to you individually.
Individually.
I think maybe the one for these, for the ones on George,
right?
Because they're related, will be in one report, but there'll be a separate report for the subsequent applications on your agenda.
So on those issue studies reports, who determined the terms of reference as to what should be studied in that? Or is
There
it
is
simply a scoping? Excuse me, can I finish my comments before you interrupt?
Yes, you can.
No. This in a way is a municipality responsibility, is that right? They're the ones requesting everything. Once they are satisfied, they will bring back their report.
So we have no say into how we would like things structured in terms of what should be included or public consultation or anything like that. We have no say?
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, if, the ISR, like I had mentioned, is in the local municipal. And so that is something that would be scoped between the municipality as well as, the applicant. I think, from the county's perspective, the policies that exist within the municipality of Central Elgin very closely align with the requirements of the county, so, I would like to think that we would be involved in any scoping. Very often, sometimes this is not the case. So therefore, if that's the case and the applicant submits something and it's not to our satisfaction based on our policies, then they're taking that onus on themselves. So Mr. Howell has indicated that they've already undertaken this ISR. I hoped that it was scoped with the appropriate staff, but if it was not, then I'm assuming they would very closely follow what is required through the official plans.
So we have no say into how much the public's to be involved with that report then? It's entirely up to council and the developer to decide whether or not to include public comments or not.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, that's basically because it is a technical report, I guess you could say. So the requirements then are usually spelled out through the official plan policies or through some sort of document that lists what's required through an ISR. It's not, how do I say this? It's not really a public document in that it's not something that typically the public, comments or reviews because they don't normally have the technical expertise to review it.
Any further comments from any members?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I do have issues with this particular, both applications together. Because there's so many issues to deal with. CCA, sorry,
Yes.
have an issue with it, as documented. The planning division of the county says that these applications do not meet the criteria of the county official plan or the provincial policy statement. We also, as a committee, have to take into consideration whether it fits in the existing neighborhood and planning there. There's a number of issues here that are very, very concerning. And deferral is one thing, recommending deferral is one thing, but looking at the map and the proposed 2 lots to be jammed in there, should the reports come back and some of them are favorable, if this is presented to us again in the future following a deferral, does this meet good planning in the neighborhood, in the county? I'm not so sure that it would be passed anyway. I just wanted to bring those comments forward.
They are. Any further comments?
Mr. Chair, could I comment?
Yes.
A number of these issues came to us late and we didn't have sufficient time to address them and bring you a fulsome response to the hearing. And when we were addressed that the municipality was requesting a deferral, the county and the authority, we felt that was a consideration that there was additional work here to be done and additional information that would be required to give a proper review of the applications before you. And we've somewhat, I guess, we've undertaken to proceed with that work, and some of it is complete, some of it is in still draft stage. So rather than submit to you it in pieces, my preference was to send you like a complete package, so you would have it all in front of you at the same time and not staggered at on different dates. And that would be what we would still intend to do. And there's nothing in the material that we would view as confidential or beyond public input or review.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Through you, Mr. Chair, something to note then that is, when Mr. Hall has completed all of the information that's been requested from the municipality and submits as a complete package, might I suggest then that we indicate that we will do another public circulation so people are aware of the application being brought forward to another committee meeting, so they do have the opportunity, if they choose to review any of the reports that would be in the file.
Yes, definitely. So we have a motion.
Motion that we defer it because there's so many outstanding issues to be dealt with.
That's 82, 21, and 83.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Second.
Seconded by Dennis. All in favor? Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Question before we vote, if I could. Procedurally, I guess, if this application is brought forward exactly the way it's presented now with 2 lots, if the applicant chooses, or can they choose to change the application to 1 lot instead of 2? Or is that considered a brand new application, Nancy?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's an amended or brand new application. So depending on the information that is submitted, if it is amended, for instance, there would be a requirement for the applicant to pay an additional fee of $300. For this application, because of the recirculation as well, the committee can also, I think, choose to pay a fee, require the applicant pay a fee for recirculation as well, because obviously there's costs associated with mail outs and things like that. But that would be incumbent on the committee if they choose to request additional fees for circulation, for instance.
I'm just not convinced that if it's brought forward in the manner that it has been brought forward today, that it would pass anyway. So we're deferring it based on that before a vote is called.
Any other questions, comments? Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Unopposed.
Unopposed. So to clarify, the recommendation of the Plan Division Committee is deferral of both E82 and 83-21, subject to additional studies as noted and a new circulation as required.
Yes.
Thank you.
Or when it is rescheduled.
Yes. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we will we're dealing with E84-21 and E85-21, or each one separate because they're 2 different streets?
This would be, next one would be just E84-21. It's a one separate parcel.
Yeah.
One separate application.
That's right. So application E84-21. Take notice, an application has been made by 1551945 Ontario Limited, David Russell, 382 Queens Ave, London, for consent pursuant to section 53 of the Planning Act as amended to sever lands municipally known as 223 Prospect Street, Municipality of Central Elgin. The applicants propose to sever a parcel with a frontage of 23.7 meters, 77.76 feet by a depth of 24.00 meters, 78.74 feet, and an area of 0.05 hectares, 0.14 acres for future residential use. The applicants are retaining a parcel with an area of 0.4 hectares, .91 acres proposed to remain in residential use. And we have the same applicants and agents for this one, right?
You do.
David Russell, yeah.
I'll ask Nancy for comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The following comments were received, the municipality of Central Elgin. Oops, click on those. The council requests that Elgin County Land Division Committee defer consent application E84-21, 23 Prospect Street, pending submission of the following: geotechnical analysis, issue scoping report, and environmental impact study, zoning matrix for the severed and retained lot, site plan that demonstrates to the satisfaction of the Director of Asset Management and Development Services that parcel A can accommodate off-street parking in accordance with the Village of Port Stanley zoning bylaw 1507 as amended, and supporting information from a qualified professional that demonstrates to the satisfaction of the chief building official that the existing development on the severed and retained lot conforms with the Ontario Building Code relative to the proposed common lot line and the conversion of the existing detached accessory building to a single detached dwelling. Comments from the county engineering indicate this application is not on a county road. Kettle Creek Conservation Authority proposed severed lot located outside of the KCCA natural hazard regulation. Recommendation from the planning division for the county of Elgin, as application E84-21 does not meet the criteria of the Elgin County official plan or the provincial policy statement, as it has not been demonstrated that no negative impacts on significant environmental features. And as requested by the municipality of Central Elgin, planning staff recommend deferral of this application. There were also some public comments received with respect to this application. This comment is from Jim and Karen Ferry at 231 Prospect Street. We are writing to you with regards to the above as we have concerns about this application. The subject property is located on the side of a ravine adjacent to a natural hazard zone. While there is an existing garage on the proposed severance lot, it has a cement slab foundation. When the garage was built, there were concerns about its construction and how it would affect the ravine and surrounding area. Building a residence in its place would require serious excavation. While we are not experts, we believe that building a new below-grade foundation would have a detrimental effect on the site and surrounding properties. The site does not appear to be physically suited to accommodate the proposed purpose. The company which is applying for the severance is a housing rental company. The existing house on the property is presently rented out and has been for several years. The purpose for the severance is to build a residence, which in all likelihood will also be rented out, possibly with multiple rental units. Rented homes are generally not maintained to the same level as homeowner occupied homes. There is a concern that our street will have rental homes on it which will not be maintained. We believe that severance would not be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. If the purpose of the severance is not desired, then proceeding with it would be moot. Second comments received from Don and David Harris at they did not, I think 229 Prospect Street. We are ready to express our concerns as well. As you know, these properties and several other neighboring ones are on the edge side of a ravine adjacent to a natural hazard zone. There is an existing garage on the proposed severance lot with a cement slab foundation. Although the garage was built prior to our purchase for our property, we understand that there were concerns about the construction and how it would affect the ravine and surrounding area. If the property were severed and a building with a foundation other than slab or on-grade built, we have grave concerns that the foundation would disrupt the flow of water around the foundation, likely diverting most of it downhill to the north into our property. We have already invested in enlarged French drains to carry away water that flows over our property from the street in that area because it was washing out the south end of our back patio. Additional water would be dangerously destructive. Additionally, the company applying for the severance is a housing rental company. The existing house on the property is presently rented and has been for several years. The clear purpose for the severance is to build rental accommodation. We are concerned that a purpose-built rental property may not be maintained to the level of the other owner-occupied homes on the street, and so we believe this severance would not be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And I believe those were all the comments received on this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Any comments from any of the members of the committee?
Motion to defer.
Move to defer by Dennis.
Does Mr. Hall want to speak?
And seconded by
Andrew.
Andrews. Mr. Hall, do you have something to say?
I would just add, Mr. Chair, that with the last submission by Don Davis and David Harris, a number of the concerns are in relation to a new building being built on the property. As you know, there is an existing building, and it's not the intention of the owner to demolish that building and build a new building with the basement. Of course, if that was brought forward by a new owner, they would have to satisfy all the technical requirements of the municipality and the chief building official to drainage and foundation issues.
Thank you.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I note that one of the requirements for the municipality of Central Elgin is a confirmation for the Ontario Building Code with respect to that existing building and being essentially habitable for future residential use.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments before I call the vote?
Is there anyone else from the public on here? Maybe we should ask really quick.
Is there anybody else from the public to speak to this application on? Yes?
Yes, I just wanted to follow up as a Port Stanley resident and a former resident of Kettle Street. I have similar concerns as was voiced before about keeping the character of the neighborhood character of.
This one is, this one we're dealing with is Prospect Street, right?
That's right, and it's off of, Prospect, I was just
Okay.
off of, yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's right up, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So David, again, I just encourage you to rethink some of your proposals and to keep these other issues that are critical in your heart. And I know you do in your own life and for your own home. So I'd like you to stand back to our neighborhoods in Port Stanley and keeping that integrity. And I also want to thank the land use staff and Mr. Chair, thank you, and Nancy Posada, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chair, could we have the name of the individual speaking?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the name was Kim McGregor Froud.
Okay, I'll now call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Opposed? 1.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, this application E84-21 will also be deferred pending the information required as per the municipality of Central Elgin.
Yes, thank you.
And as well, there would also be a recirculation for this notice as well.
Okay. The next application is E85-21, 431 Front Street. Take notice that an application was made by 1551945 Ontario Limited, David Russell, 382 Queens Ave, London, for consent pursuant to Section 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended to sever lands municipally known as 431 Front Street, Municipality of Central Elgin. The applicants propose to sever a parcel with a frontage of 15 meters, 49.21 feet by a depth of 24 meters, 78.74 feet, and an area of 0.03 hectares, 0.09 acres for future residential use. The applicants are retaining a parcel with an area of 0.04 hectares, 0.1 acres proposed to remain in residential use. And now ask Nancy for her comments on this application, as we still have the same agents on this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. E85-21, the following comments were received from the municipality of Central Elgin. That the council, municipality of Central Elgin requests that Elgin County Land Division Committee defer consent application E85-21, 431 Front Street, pending the submission of the following: geotechnical analysis, issue scoping report and environmental impact study, zoning matrix for the retained lot, site plan that demonstrates the satisfaction of the Director of Asset Management and Development Services that parcel A can accommodate off-street parking in accordance with the Village of Port Stanley zoning bylaw 1507 as amended. And now the comments received. County engineering indicated this application is not on a county road. Kettle Creek Conservation Authority, KCCA permit is required prior to any proposed construction. The recommendation of county planning staff at the request of the municipality of Central Elgin, planning staff recommend deferral of this application pending the information that, as noted previously. I would also add that as part of this recommendation, we ask that a recirculation be added to the application once the information has been submitted.
Any comments from members of the committee? Any comments from the agents?
Is there anyone from the public on the call?
Do we have anybody on public on this one?
Yes, Frank. Hello?
Yes.
Hi,
Go ahead.
yes.
Can you state your name for us, Mr. Oliva?
Yeah, Frank Oliva. I did send a letter. I'm not sure if it was mentioned. I had a bit of a computer problem at a moment, but
yes,
I'm directly across the street from where this application is being done. Concerns are I've already addressed some other concerns to the municipality regarding parking problems directly across the street at the corner of Tower Heights and Inverary, and to compound a severance of this lot with the intentions of building a new property would add to this. And I know maybe this was talked about previously. I apologize. I'm not really sure what was spoken. But in general, we're really talking about a lot that already is at a corner. There are safety concerns. The roadways there are very tight for any emergency vehicles to deal with. Adding another building, sight lines. There's a number of things that need to be done here that I'm concerned with. And ultimately, if maybe both the owner and the consultant can explain, there was a conversation that the intention is to build a new property, then sell the existing property, which in essence means, this is a pure business decision. This has nothing to do with anything that concerns the neighborhood. And it's already a sensitive area, considering Front Street will be going through a major reconstruction due to erosion issues that have occurred and infrastructure problems, just a number of things. And to add more to what's already a pretty small property, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I know this is being deferred, but deferral to what? To allow this to occur doesn't make sense. When I know that there had been other residences along Front Street that had inquired about severing and were told at the time that the size of the lot were not significant to be able to do this effectively. Can this be addressed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I neglected to read the comments that had been provided by the public. So as you can see in your
Yes.
Agenda package, there was a email from Mr. Oliva with respect to this application.
Yes.
His comments with respect to, I'll allow the applicant to answer if they can.
Yes. Any comments from the applicants on Mr. Olivia's letter?
You certainly made some good points about emergency vehicles and access. We certainly want to make sure there's adequate parking, improving on the parking that's currently for that house that's there on the retained portion would be parking put in behind the house. So on the north side of the house, and then keeping the driveway access for the new build on the new lot towards the east end of the corner there, facing the north as well. So keeping the parking away from the corners as much as possible.
The building being created is sufficiently sized to accommodate parking on site, and there wouldn't be any additional demand on the what appears to be a public parking lot on the west side of Inver-Erie Lane.
Can I add to this as well? My concerns regarding this as well is that further down the road on Tower Heights, a neighbor had removed an existing fence and had to put a new fence up, and was told by the township that they had to construct it in such a manner to improve the sight lines around the corners here. All I can tell you is that if I see a building being plopped there that will impede the corner of that area, that's just going to create another safety concern. And as to the parking adjacent across the road from there, that has had a severe problem. And I've addressed this with both bylaw in regards to the number of vehicles that get parked there and left there and has been used as a storage facility more than an actual public parking lot. That come summertime, especially from spring till the middle of Thanksgiving, parking concerns, as it's been a problem throughout the village, I mean, has been, severely increasing even up here. And we know that with the reconstruction of Front Street, that all parking will be eliminated, which will then allow people to now focus more parking in the back. So that's just going to increase more vehicle traffic, more vehicles in the way that will impede people. People walk. There are no sidewalks, so we're basically told to, we want to walk around the neighborhood. We're walking on roadways, so there's just way too many. And honestly, to jam another property in there just makes no sense. These lots are already small. Parking has always been a problem in general. And just to add another one to it, and to be truthful, as it was echoed in other concerns, when we see rental properties come involved, we don't know the people's, their roots are not long, let's put it that way. The previous tenant that was in the house in front of me, that's number 3 that's been removed since I've been in my home. So, again, my concerns is, as we said, about neighborhoods. We are residents. We live here. We kind of, I just think there's more safety aspects to this, and just a complete change of how this neighborhood's going to turn into. And the environmental impact as well is something else I had mentioned as well. So I'm really not sure that this is just a pure business decision, not anything to be considered about the neighborhood.
Thank you for your comments. We have a motion on that one yet?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, because I neglected to go through the public comments, I'd like to do that at this time. As Mr. Oliva provided, his comments are also attached if you'd like to review, but he did indicate most of those points as well through his verbal representation. We have Dr. Jason Morris, who wanted to be informed in the call, so he may be on the call as well. So we'll have to go to the public in a second. Kim Uhas, no address given. I reside at 427 Front Street. Yes. I'm opposed to the application being made by David Russell. Geographically and environmentally, it would be a good decision to not allow this application to go through. It is a very small corner with no possibility of adding more driveway space. So all of the vehicles for both houses will end up parking along the surrounding roads. There is already enough congestion on Front Street, Inverary Heights Lane and Tower Heights Drive. So to add numerous vehicles along the roadside creates a hazard for any emergency vehicles trying to maneuver around the corner off of Front Street to any private home in that area. As well, I am concerned with the possibility of the construction of another house on said property, disturbing the underground spring in the back area of the property, which I understand keeps the area quite wet and could potentially create unforeseen problems for surrounding properties. I am also not in favor of more rentals in our neighborhood, creating transient traffic that could potentially be changing hands weekly. To crowd another house onto the back of that property isn't in the best interest of our neighborhood as a whole. I don't believe that this application for severance is being done as a personal improvement to one's own home and property. Hopefully Central Elgin would consider our concerns as residents who take pride in where we live and want to maintain the value of our property, the safety of our neighborhood, and the visual aesthetic of well-managed private homes. And a further comment was provided by Scott Willoughby. My wife Kathy and I live at 433 Front Street. The only thing that is between us and 431 Front Street is Inverary Heights Lane. We are very much opposed to this application. It seems that people like David Russell are trying to jam as many dwellings as they possibly can into small spaces. It is obviously not planning to not planning to sever this lot to live in one, but he intends to sell at least one to make money from this. I am all for someone making a profit and seeing our community grow. It is Central Elgin's job to ensure that this growth is done in a way that benefits all of us living here. By allowing this application, council will only be benefiting one person and would add to the congestion, traffic, and parking problems that we already have on Front Street. Please ensure that this email is shared with council members. And those were all the public comments received as part of this application. So I asked Mr. Chair if you'd like to see if there's anyone else from the public that also.
Is there anybody else from the public on?
It's Jason Morris. I live at
Yes, go
421.
ahead.
I just wanted to concur with Frank's comments and Kim's comments that you know, it's a community up there now, and the direction of this does not seem to reflect the community value that I've witnessed since I've lived there.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on this one?
Sorry.
Is there anyone else from the public on this? No? Any? John?
May I still ask a question?
Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Nancy, has there been any public information center meetings on this? Is what we're hearing from our contributors here issues that are maybe not premature, but have they been addressed through anything at Port Stanley? Are we trying to make a decision on something that the applicant is suggesting he's going to be doing 3 individual EISs and ISRs and the whole works? Are we premature in making a decision without seeing the effects of those? That may sink the application. It may not necessarily support the application. So he's taking that risk, is he not?
For you, Mr. Chair, essentially, the applicant is required to provide additional information. There has not been, as far as I know, additional public meetings with respect to these applications in whole, specifically also for this property and this application. The applicant has been requested to provide additional information to the municipality as per the deferral. And essentially, the information that is being provided, you are correct, there could be information in that potentially could end up not supporting the applications, depending on if they meet, you know, provincial policy, local policy, that sort of thing. So it's, that's, I guess, part of the planning process in terms of if you make an application, then sometimes you also will need to author or have authored particular studies to support your application. So, and there is not always a guarantee that it will be a favorable outcome.
A favorable outcome to the applicant.
To the applicant, that's right, correct.
So are we premature making a decision to deny as opposed to refer?
Through Mr. Chair, the recommendation's for deferral at this time. So unless someone is putting a different motion on the floor, Municipality of Central Elgin has asked for deferral as has county staff.
Nancy, has there been any environmental studies or impacts regarding this this piece of parcel of land in regards to the location?
No, through you, Mr. Chair, there has been nothing provided as of yet.
We have, I might have
I
undertaken.
do note, as part of the request for additional information from the Municipality of Central Elgin, an issue scoping report and environmental impact study have been requested.
And we, as of this day, do have a draft of that report.
Pardon?
I was just gonna add, we have a draft ISR report on this property.
So that would be going to the township then, or to the central.
Through you, Mr.
office.
Chair, it'll be submitted to us as the county and we will circulate to the Municipality of Central Elgin.
Okay. So any further questions from committee members?
I move for deferral.
Moved by John Andrews for deferral, seconded by Rosemary. All in favor? Carried, opposed? 1.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this was a recommendation for deferral pending the additional information as requested by the municipality of Central Elgin and a new circulation once that information has been received.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thank you for everybody's attention to this and their comments. And that is the last application for today.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I note that unfortunately, when I was looking at E88-21, which was Centennial Avenue, I was looking at the comments provided by the planner, but not the recommendation from the municipality of Central Elgin. Therefore, a condition was missed by me. I note that the recommendation from council for E88-21
Yes.
also required a drainage reassessment be done if necessary at the owner's expense. So I wanted to make the community aware of that, and I'm
Mr.
not.
Chairman, as a mover of that recommendation, I'd accept that as an amendment to the resolution.
Can we do that then?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
I'll do an amendment.
And do we have
Seconder
moved
has,
it?
say that be added, the seconder has to.
Who was the seconder on that one?
Let me just get to that
Yeah.
one here.
Williams.
Moved with added
Daniel, the
merging
merging
as
of properties over on the.
as well as.
I did
Second vote.
condition, and I was gonna say something, but
Condition for drainage reassessment.
Drainage reassessment, yes.
Centennial.
And it was seconded by,
Sorry.
It was moved by O'Grady
Yeah.
and seconded by
the first motion,
Kennedy.
Kennedy? You okay with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I'm okay with that. Perfect.
Okay. And all in favor of that?
Oh, yes.
Additional
Addition?
all in favor. Appreciate it. Sorry, I'm
Okay.
sorry I didn't twig to that. I'm actually glad I twigged to it before the meeting ended, so.
I don't ask for
they're fired.
adjournment of this part of the meeting.
That's right, you can go ahead.
I'd ask for a
Guys can-
motion to adjourn this part of the meeting. Moved by Duke. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Get everything.
No, I think Don asked that we each bring our binders with us.
Bring everything with you. I think we're gonna move